Welcome back, everybody. Excuse me. We are here today to take another look at a kit review. And today we are going to be looking at the Kinetic F-5A. Now, this was the first boxing of the Kinetic F-5 that came out. I purchased this used online, so the box is a little beat up, and some of the parts inside have kind of been put in Ziploc bags and labeled and stuff like that, so that's a little easy to keep track of, which I appreciate. I don't think I've ever actually gone through this kit before at all, other than just reading through the instructions, so it's a first for me. Anyways, as I mentioned, it was the first boxing of the F5 that Kinetic put out, and over the years they've had other variants. Sorry, like I said, the first time I've gone through this, and there's some extra stuff in here that I don't... Oh, come on. Replacement sprue. Oh, okay. I got a replacement sprue. Sure. Don't know why I have a replacement sprue. Anyways. Sorry, like I said, I'm just going through this for the first time. Anyways, Kinetic has re-released this over the years with various different... Kinetic has re-released this over the years in various boxings. Some were specific Canadian, some were specific Norwegian. This one has a big, wide selection of decals in it, and then they also released the F5B variant, the twin seat variant of this kit, which basically just had a different nose section on it. So the instructions, little bent up here, but you know what? We'll look at plastic first, and then we'll look at instructions. So as I said, this has been opened already, and then sealed with masking tape, which again, I'll give the previous owner credit for trying to keep stuff together. There's some smaller weapon sprues, and then there's the main kind of sprue. Forget how small this plane is. It's a really tiny little airplane. Anyways, so we'll start over here with these sprues here that include parts of the fuselage, and we will work our way through. So you've got sprue. Yeah, see, it looks like these came out of the box as a single sprue and then got trimmed. I don't know if I think the previous owner trimmed some of these to make them fit a bit better. Anyways, so you have this sprue here, sprue D, and it has the two rear fuselage halves. Part of the nose, some of the intake trunking, the ladder, and some of the gear doors and landing gear bits and pieces. Again, I haven't taken this apart and looked at this yet. I've had this for a few years. It's the first time I've looked at it. I've built a few Kinetic kits in the past, and this looks about right. You've got decent panel lining going on, decent detail. Nothing spectacular, but I mean, it's not horrible, so I'll take it. Little soft in some of the details in here, but yeah, no, it's pretty good. Lot of little additional plastics for the ejector pins to push on. So there's a lot of cleanup you got to do on these parts to get them to look good, but it also means that there isn't a lot of damage because there's no ejector pin markings on any of the parts. But it's things like here on these doors where these little lips, you know, the door has a little lip that hangs out. The sprue gates cause that lip to have a thicker part. You have to take quite a bit of time to sand that down and repair and recreate that lip. So it's a give and take on both sides, but that would be that. And then this is where you've got your wings. And again, they're so small. It almost feels like a 72nd scale aircraft. It's so small, but you forget how small the F5 is. So you've got your one-piece lower wing, which has a section of fuselage and your main gear base. Your upper wings are here and are separate. Halves on the top. You've got your flaps. You've got some slats here. It looks like a center pylon, your wing pylons, and your horizontal stabilizers. Again, you can see there's some space here for some clear lights and whatnot, so that's a nice addition. A little bit of filling will be required if you choose to build it without wing pylons. It looks like they're designed to have the pylons fitted from the get-go, so you have to fill those holes versus having the option to drill them if you did not want to have them. So that's there. Here we've got the lower fuselage, and it looks like there is 2 different variants based off of what version you make. And this looks like the center section here on the nose. Drop tanks, some more little doors, gear doors here, your bleed ports on the side, your refueling probe, your hook, all that kind of stuff. Again, nothing spectacular, but nothing that's also a make or break. So pretty happy with what I'm looking at. Here's your forward nose. This is the sprue that changes between the single seat and the twin seat, obviously. A twin seat would have the different nose with the 2 seats. A cockpit tub, yeah, no, you know what? That's pretty good. You got quite a bit of detailing in the switches and dials and stuff, and your throttles are there. Stick looks good. Seat is a little bit basic. I was just doing the monogram, or the Revell F14, and you look at that F14 compared to what you see on this seat, and it's night and day. Actually, it looks like the previous owner had an aftermarket ejection seat from Avionics included, and you can really see the difference in quality when you see the resin seat added onto it. So pretty basic on the ejection seat side of things. Even just the seat itself is just bare. You do get photo etch, wherever I put those. You do get some photo etch seat belts, but I mean, no, you don't get photo etch seat belts. I take that back. Those are slime lights. So what you get here is what you see for the ejection seat. So a little soft on the ejection seat detail. Instrument panel looks really nice. Same thing. A lot of fine little buttons and dials and stuff. A good dry brush will really make that pop. So no real complaints there. And then you've got 2 duplicate sprues here that give you your weapons, your drop tanks, wingtip tanks, your wheels, sidewinders, rocket pods, a Mark 82, and all of your gear door actuators, antennas, bits and bobs, your sway braces and stuff like that. So that's all of that. Curious where those exhausts probably was from here, but why they were trimmed out, I don't really understand. So looking here, as I said, with these extra little bag parts, you got the photo etch, which are slime lights and a few little antennas. The exhaust cans have been trimmed out of the I don't understand. Is that actually glued, or is that how it comes? One is separate and one isn't? Yeah, it looks like one might have been glued already, and he did like one part of the gluing and then moved on, or this part was, I have no idea. I have to look at the instructions. I don't know why these are trimmed off like this and why they're partially assembled. It might have literally just been the start of his building and then he decided to sell the kit. And then you've got the 2 cockpit pieces, one replacement, one not. This one has 2 main canopies and this one only has 1. So again, I'm not too sure what I'm looking at here. And then you've got the aftermarket ejection seat, which definitely be using. I plan to build this one with the cockpit open. So let's take a quick look at instructions here. I'll leave the plastic out. That way, if I want to reference back to it, I can. It's a small enough kit to do that. So instructions are these 8.5 by 11 size sheets. They're much bigger than that, but they're stapled together. And if I remember correctly, the building is pretty simple. You've got the usual front page with your information, your caution, your sort of instructions, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, see, like it looks like, yeah, this piece is still together as one. The wings. But yeah, those 2 fuselage halves were one sprue that he cut down the middle. And then yeah, oh, look at this. Why? One burner can is molded and the other one gets glued on. That's such a weird way of doing things. Anyways. You've got your sprue layout, you've got your information if you need replacement ones. You've also got your painting guide with Mr. Color, Hobby Color, and Vallejo callouts. You can see not all the colors work, so you'd have to do some conversions and custom mixing if you wanted to get them very accurate. Oh yeah, the building is sideways on these. I forgot about that. That's awkward. Yeah, so step one, again, is your cockpit area, your cockpit tub, seat, instrument panel, your ejection seat piece. If you want to build the canopy open or closed, you have to make your choice on how you assemble things. It's kind of nice. It's kind of pre-built with the canopy open. If you want to close, you cut off these upper swing arms and then you mount the piece inside the canopy and close it. So that's really nice that you got that extra detail when you want it. You're also assembling this nose section and you can see the little slime light pieces for the Canadian version go on there. The next step here, you're doing, looks like the nose wheel. There's also a different nose wheel you use depending on what variant you are building. I don't know why there is a difference, but there is. Weird. It's very different. D10E. I don't know if you still use C and D. Looks like you do. Not the easiest of instructions to follow though. So, but here's this weird part of something with the burner can where there's this frame and one burner can is permanent and the other burner can is a separate piece. Not burner cans, there's no afterburners on these, but exhausts. One exhaust can is molded into the frame and the other one gets glued in, and I don't know why they molded it that way. It's such a weird way of doing things. Anyways, this next step here, excuse me, you'll see there's two different steps based off what you want to do, the American or the Canadian or the Canadair built versus the Northrop built. So the main landing, the nose landing gear, I should say, goes together the same. You've got to make sure you use the appropriate nose gear based off the previous step. And then your fuselage halves are the same. Your cockpit's the same. There's a few extra holes here you have to do if you're doing the Canadian version. And there's some extra pieces you've got to put in place. This is a blanking plate. This has a little antenna. This has some extra bits and bobs on it that this one doesn't. And then obviously the Canadair built has the refueling probe, where the American version does not. So just make sure you follow your instructions for the version you're building and do all the appropriate steps. So then again here onto the next step. You're kind of doing some more in the canopy with the nose, the ladder if you choose to do that. It asks you to install the clear parts. Again, you make that decision based off of your build sequence. I'll probably be adding the clear parts much later in the sequence. Same with the ejection seat and all that other stuff. A lot of that will go on much later in the build sequence, not this early. But the other thing to note is there is a little piece of photo etch you have to put on if you're building the American version that doesn't exist on the other versions. Step 6 here, we're installing or we're assembling the rear fuselage. There's again some drilling you have to do and some, oh no, this is only if you're doing the American style. You put all these pieces in, you got the covers and little intakes and all that kind of stuff that go together. Step 7 is the same step for the Canadair built, and you'll start to see the difference where you've got these auxiliary intake louvers that can be open or closed. The slime lights go on. Same thing on the tail. There's also this section here that only gets installed if you're doing the Norwegian scheme. I think those are flare buckets, but I'm not entirely sure. Is while your exhaust cans go on. So step 7 of the wings, there's nothing special here. You put it all together. You can build it with the flaps and slats up or down, and you have the option of going through and making that choice and putting them together depending on how you choose to do it. Step 8 are your intake trunking, which is nice because you've got full depth intake trunking. And again, I'll probably end up using similar to what I was talking about with the F-14 if you've seen that one, as well as some of my jets. I'll use the white house paint mode or the primer mode to do the intake trunking. And then over here is we got to be careful again between the Canadair version and the Northrop version. There's different pieces. Same all through here. You got a different build sequence. Same through here where everything kind of goes together. The lower fuselage section gets glued onto the rear fuselage with the wing, and then the nose and everything slides together. I have a feeling that's going to cause some fit issues. Time will tell. Moving on to step 10, you're doing landing gear. You're gluing on the main gear, your gear doors, your horizontal stabs, your air brakes, and the center pylon. Again, I don't know how easy this is going to be to build with all of that retracted, but you can make that decision if you choose. Step 11, you're installing some of the weapons with the wingtip. If you choose to add these like conformal fuel tanks, they're like the Coke bottle area rule fuel tanks, you can add those now along with your wing pylons. And then 12, you can see the this is the weapons layout. You can choose which weapons you want to put where. You can do all of them, you can do none of them. it's up to you. You've got an AIM-9B and an AIM-9J, Mark 82, some fuel tanks, the rocket launchers, and more fuel tanks. And it shows here which order you can do things if you choose to do them. Marking guides, there's quite a few markings included in this kit. The first one is one of the YF-5A prototypes, the third prototype that currently exists in the U.S. Air Force Museum. It's currently painted as a Vietnam era aircraft at the U.S. Air Force Museum, not this original prototype scheme. And then there's another version here in a 41st Combat Crew Training School, William Air Force Base, in TAC colors. And again, there is another one here. It looks like it was one that eventually ended up in Greece, but it was flown by the U.S. Air Force for a while. And it looks like it's got red, fluorescent red panels, which would be really cool to put onto the kit. It would really make it pop, but I'm obviously doing a Canadian scheme. So here, now it's a little confusing because when I was looking at ScaleMates, it was showing a huge long list. And I'm like, I don't remember that many painting guides, but it's because you look, for example, here you have two different aircraft, 116757. All of these are in the Ghost scheme, varying shades of gray, as the Canadian aggressors that we used them for a few years. So we have 757, which is currently on display at the Canadian Warplane Heritage Museum in Hamilton. And then down here, you have another aircraft, 727, being flown by AETE out in Cold Lake, Alberta in 1992. Yes?
Hi.
I'm trying to film a video.
What?
I'm trying to film a video.
Okay.
I'll come up in a minute, okay?
I know you're trying to film.
Okay, I'll come up in a minute. I know you can't be here when I'm doing this because there's noise in the background. You move around and you make noise. I'll come up in a minute, okay? I'm almost done. Okay, I'll come up in a minute. Please, I want to get this finished. The longer you stand here, the longer it's going to take me. Samantha, please go upstairs. You make noise in the background. I'll be up in a minute. Okay, next up here we have is another one that's on display. This is 116763. That's currently on display at the Canada Aviation and Space Museum, and you get two versions of that. You get its original version when it was flown by 434 Squadron, and you get the current way it is displayed at the museum. The only difference between the two is they overpainted the 434 band and made it more of a generic airframe for display. And I don't know. I don't know which way I'm going to do yet. I kind of like matching the museum display, but I also really like the 434 Squadron tail band, especially because I plan to do an F-86 Sabre as 434, and to kind of have that two together would be really interesting. So we'll see which one I get, but it'll be this scheme. I just have to sort the details, which is what I am going to be building. Next we have another 434 Squadron one, 727, which I believe is the same as this aircraft here, but this is the earlier green and gray over light gray, basically the World War II scheme that you saw on like RAF aircraft. Dark green, dark gray over light gray. So you've got 727 here, and you've got 757, which again is these two aircraft, but earlier in its life with 434 Squadron when they had the camo pattern. Next up we have the Netherlands Air Force from 1979. Again, it's a green and gray over gray, different shades in Canada. Later on, 1985, this is another Netherlands Air Force, and it's all like various shades of gray, kind of like an F-16 scheme. And here's an earlier one. Apparently, it's an aerobatic team that Norway used to fly back in the day. And you have options for 4 different aircraft. You could do 207, 209, 210, or 211, and it shows you the various markings and where to change to make the various aircraft. And there's another one down here for 224, which was just a generic line squadron from 1979. Yeah. Next, we have another one. And these are all overall silver schemes, which is pretty cool. This is another one, Norwegian Air Force from 1969. And again, you've got options for, looks like 4 different aircraft that you can do. I'm filming. Go upstairs, please. I'll be up in a minute. I can't have you down here when I'm filming because you girls make noise. I'll be up in a minute, okay?
Daddy,
Yes.
where's the vacuum?
Mommy's got it charging.
But I don't know where it is.
Okay, I'll be up in a minute. Samantha told you I was doing this. I'll be up in a minute. So yeah, Royal Norwegian Air Force, overall silver, and again, you have options for, it looks like 3 different markings, 223, 222, or 224, and all the different numbers to show you how to get each one to do the way you want to do it. RIK, RII, and RIL. And then here we have a Greek Air Force from the Aero Squadron in 1992. Only the one option here, and it looks like this is a dark blue over silver scheme, which again, it's a pretty cool scheme. Next up, another Greek Air Force Aero Squadron from 1998. So this was what, 1992, 1998. Same thing, it's a navy blue over silver. And then kind of the, over here, another Aero Squadron from 1993, but it's, yes! I don't know where it is. I'll be up in a minute. I'm trying to finish the video. Okay, so the next one we have here at Greek Air Force from another aircraft from the Aero Squadron 341st from 1993. This particular one has a 3-tone gray scheme, kind of reminiscent of the Canadian scheme. I wouldn't be surprised if they were Canadian aircraft that were sent. Trying to see if the color matches up. They don't match up perfectly, the color schemes, but they're exactly the same colors. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were ex-Canadian aircraft that were sent to Greece at some point, and they were painted up in the same colors. Here's another one from 1993 from the Greek Air Force from the 349th Squadron, and this is dark gray over light gray. And another one, this is these are both NF5, so these are straight F-5s, the American built. These are the Canadian built, Canadair built ones that went to Norway and then made their way to Greece. And again, you've got this 3-tone gray scheme on that. And finally, we have the South Vietnamese Air Force from 1969. These are the Lend-Lease aircraft, so this is a Southeast Asia scheme, and you have options for 3 different aircraft on that. So, I mean, I haven't even done the math on that. How many aircraft does that work out to? I think my website review is wrong because you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 different marking options from this one kit, which is pretty impressive when you think of it. And then, oh, because I have all my decals living in a binder, I gotta pull out the decals to actually show them to you. Yeah, it's a pretty in-depth sheet now that I haven't looked. I said, I got this kit, I threw it into the closet, never really looked at it again. And I've had it for a few years now, but I mean, this is a pretty in-depth sheet. So you've got all your different aircraft, your American, Canadian, Netherlands, Norwegian, Greece, and South Vietnam, plus your generic markings. And so you can see in here, you've got 3 different versions. Here you've got all your different markings. Here you've got all your different markings. And then this is your black one that includes US, Canadian, Netherlands, Norwegian, and the South Vietnamese, and the Greece. So there's quite a few options here. So these are the kind of things where it's nice because you can build one, and if somebody else needs another set down the road, it's super easy to just send off the different sheets and give them what they need. But yeah, decals are really nice. They're printed by Cartograph, so these things are going to be beautiful. Another thing to note, the Canadian schemes have the false canopy. a lot of people, you know, they realize the CF-18s have them and the A-10s use them in the US, but we also put them on the CF-5s for the aggressor schemes, and that's pretty cool. A lot of little details too, like some of the flags have clear backgrounds, some have a silver background. They got it's right. There's a lot of it that is right, and it's good to see that they got them correct. A lot of these details make a lot of sense. Perfect example, in Canada, we don't use no step. In the US Air Force, you see a lot of it just says no step, no step, no step. In Canada, we use these little footprints, a little boot print with an X through it, and that's because of the English and French. You'd have to have them written in both languages, and it was just easier to have a little step than it was. Some things aren't, but like for example here you've got armed forces and forces armée, so it makes a lot of sense to just use something that's a visual representation versus a word. So you see that a lot in even NATO has adopted a lot of that in terms of like fuel ports and GPU ports and crane ports. They're not words, they're symbols, because the symbols work across multiple languages. Well, it's the same with these no steps in Canada. So anyways, a neat addition. Like I said, I've had it for a few years. I've just never actually done anything with it and looked at it. So it's on the to build list. I mean, depending on when this review comes out, there's a chance I might have already started construction of it. So if you're watching this and you do want to see a build of this, take a quick look through on my monthly What's on My Desk updates. You'll probably start to see some progress on this sooner rather than later. And as well, keep an eye out, because once I get to the point, I will have the time-lapse part 1 come out. Yes! Okay, I'll bring it up in a minute. I'm filming a video. So yeah, keep an eye out. This review will probably make it live quite a while before the time lapse goes up, but you could at least follow the progress on my monthly What's on My Desk updates if you do want to see the progress on this kit. That's always a good place to go, as well as checking out the website, because I do update those pictures somewhat regularly if you choose to follow along. So I'm going to wrap it up here. That was the, I'll put the box again. So this is the Kinetic F-5A, and for those of you who are interested, is there a copyright on this box? I don't know if there is a copyright on the box. That's surprising. Wow, is there like no copyright at all in any of this stuff? Anyways, I want to say it was early 2000s when this kit first came out, and this is the original boxing of this kit. So, yeah. Don't know how available this is. I haven't really looked to see if it's still available online or what versions of it are. I'm sure you can find them on the secondhand market. That's where I got this. So that's that. That is the Kinetic F-5A, F-5A, CF-5A, and F-5A with, what was it, 26 different potential markings included. So quite the box. So that's that. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you all next time.